Jenny Funkmeyer here, taking some notes, doing some thinking, sitting in Otis Funkmeyer's studio, where one day we will be shooting the Funkmeyer show. so today I want to talk about. I've been really into Robert Monroe, out of body experience, OBE. And I'm like, there's certain teachers that like I would go back over and over and over again over my life. I would read their books. For example, this book of Robert Monroe, I would read uh, hundreds of times over, 20 years, 30 years. Um, so some books are like that, and some books I would just skim it and out. And I thought, when how do I pick my teachers? Um, so I thought the way I pick my teachers is to examine that person's life, how that person has lived his or her life. I'm talking about all kinds of teacher, you know. I mean, if you're just like trying to learn how to drive, all you need is a teacher that knows how to drive. But if you are like me, a seeker, a researcher of spirituality, and I want to live a life, worthy life, a spiritual life, then, how do I find my teachers? Not by reputation, not by, um, I guess, from somehow inside, but I just want to actually, you know what, I just want to use Robert Monroe as an example. He's the guru of out of body experience. He's as an example. I want to use Robert Monroe as an example to tell you how I um, revere him as my teacher. I did not discover him that long ago. I know of him for a long time, but I just started getting like really into Robert Monroe only a few months ago. And I consider him one of the highest teacher around. The reason is I examine his life and find that his life really, really incredible. Um, in the 50s, he was a successful businessman. He has, like he himself said, he has enough fame for his own liking and enough money. He really wasn't looking for anything, and he wasn't meditating. He was not a spiritual person. He's a businessman. He's an ordinary, so-called ordinary people, just like you and me. And he was lying in bed, um, and simultaneously he had an out of body experience. Before he had the out of body experience, he was researching on uh, synchronizing the brain, left brain and right brain, using sound, using clicks. This is in the 50s. This is very pioneering stuff. He was researching it in order to have people learn while they were asleep. So he himself was the test subject of a very worthy project. I mean, I look at that and go, that's a very worthy endeavor that he was doing. He was trying to learn how to synchronize the left brain and the right brain using different clicks in the ears, so he can learn, he can help people learn things faster. And because of doing that, he synchronized his left brain and right brain. In a way, he got to a very deep meditative state without, sitting up in the high up in the Himalayas, and actually meditating for like what a lot of the spiritual teachers have done. He actually lived an urban life, a life of a Westerner. And then he came into he came into spirituality. Actually, the other thing is I respect him is he never talked about his experience as a spiritual experience. He very carefully avoid falling into the trap because the things he was doing out of body experience is actually when you get into the state after what we commonly call after life, death, after you die. This is the realm that he was traveling in his out of body experience, right? But he's such a controlled and respectable person that he never used the word spirituality. Just he calls the after death state, the non-physical realm, the etheric realm that I call, he calls it there. THERE. He said over there, over there. So he was really careful in not stuffing any kind of um, belief system on his people who listens to him. So I find that a lot of restraint. Find that very respectful of the people that is coming after him, and I like that. I like that he was a businessman, a successful man. He was not, you know, he was not looking for to earn money from you. I like that. And then his experience of 45 years traveling in the there, in the non-physical realm. He has met um, his, I call it spirit guide, but his higher self, had numerous conversations with his higher self, actually seeing this person. See, I have a spirit guide right here, but I only in very elevated state have I seen my spirit guide just once, right? I can hear him, but I can't see him. Robert Monroe was able to roll out of his body to use his second body to travel in so there's a physical body, and when you don't use a physical body and use your second body, your etheric body, that's called out of body experience, right? So he was able to travel using his out of body experience to have a very real experience, just like much like my nighttime dream, my lucid dreaming, or I can also do out of body. I can do astral projection and I can do lucid dreaming, but I haven't been able to use out of body experience like the way Robert Monroe has done. Anyway, he was able to meet his spirit guide in person, had very profound conversation. So for me, it would be like I'm talking to my spirit guide on a telephone, but Robert Monroe is having a one-on-one meeting with his spirit guide, like private sessions. So um, I think what he learns from that is really profound. He talked a lot about them in this book, Ultimate Journey. And he also has mapped out the afterlife territories and find certain things. For example, praying to God. God doesn't help you if you meet monster in your etheric realm. You go, oh, God help me, God help me, protect me, God protect me. Does not protect you. The monster will come and like ha, laugh, in fact, laugh at you. So that kind of makes me pause, isn't it? Like, my teacher Nisargadatta said, well, there's God and there's me. Why would I pray to God? God needs me and I need God. You know, it's like an equal, not equal, but it's a relationship. But to put yourself below God and pray apparently does not work in over there in the spirit realm. That also means to me that it doesn't work here. So that makes me I don't know. I mean, I don't know, right? But I'm just like comparing what Robert Monroe comes up with this, the data for me, the information for me to make my conclusion. But that's very good information for me. That praying, the other thing is he found that there are realms of belief systems. Realms of belief system, which means if you believe in something really, really strong enough, you're going to create that reality that is just like that. So, for example, if you are a devout Christian and you totally, 100%, believe that there will be heaven and hell after you die, and you will see Jesus sitting next to God and Mary and angels flying around if you were a good person, and if you were actually a good person, after you die, you were actually in that realm, and you could, just because it's so pleasant, you see God sitting right over there next to Jesus and Mary, just angels flying around. So you will end up in heaven. And if you were bad, you will end up in hell. But it's all because of your belief system. Reality is actually not like that, as Robert Monroe travels from belief system to belief system and see that there are worlds in each belief system. Someone that believes, like that movie, What Dreams May Come, the Robert Williams' wife believed that she was bad, and her whole family, and she ended up in hell. So, and it was very clear in that movie that hell is basically a punishment that you put on yourself. It's because what you believe. And Robert Monroe said, he didn't say that, but he said it in a very loose and beautiful way that I've come to that conclusion myself, the same conclusion that Robert Monroe has come to for himself, that we don't need belief systems. We don't need to believe things. We need to know. Before you know something, you can believe, so the belief actually help you to get to the know. But eventually you have to kind of know things. Right now I believe many things, but I'm in the process of trying to find enough information or see to it myself that I would come to a knowing. For example, if I have never been to Paris, and I listen to people tell me about Paris, and I would believe that Paris exists. But when I get to Paris, and I'm walking around in Paris, and I'm drinking tea in the cafes in Paris, I know Paris exists. So in spirituality, that's what we want to come to, is knowing. And Robert Monroe knows because he was in this spirit realm for 45 years, traveling a lot, getting information. As a scientist, as a Western approach, the scientific approach of making the spiritual information into knowing. So for him, he has found that he don't need to believe that there is no such thing as death. He knows. And he said, well, you want to know that when you die, what happens and what does it look like? You just have to try it yourself. Try out-of-body experience, and you would know. So because I am a lucid dreamer and I can astral project somewhat. None of these are 100% foolproof. I'm not saying I'm a really good one. I'm just saying I have done it and I can do it. It correlates with what Robert Monroe says about what I see in the spirit realm. So those are things that makes Robert Monroe so unusual, a spiritual teacher for me. And he's very modest, and I love the way he talks in a really modest way. He is It's very solid. You know, when someone knows something and you ask them, they're very solid. The information is very much like, this is what I see, this is what I do, this is how I do it. And with a person like that, when you get spiritual information from someone like that, you can actually like, you can actually, how do I say it? It's like it's very different from getting information. If you have a leaking sink, it's very different to get information from someone who has read about plumbing, kind of who has a sink as well that leaks, than to talk to a plumber. Like a plumber said, "Oh, blah 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 blah. This is what happened. This is what I do." And you look at the plumber and you go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." You believe, and that's the feeling I get when I read Robert Monroe. I'm Every time I open his book, I say a prayer to him for gratitude. That's right, another incredible information. The reason I listen to Robert Monroe as a spiritual teacher is because after he died in 1995. This book was published in 1994, or this book was, anyway, this book was written the year, he finished the book the year before he died. That means this is like his magnum opus. This is like his book of all-time information, and that's why, I read the guidance for life in this book, and I think it's real. So, do you know what happened after he died? He still exists in the there. In the realm that he has traveled before he died, he exists there. People, after he shed his body, his students can see him there, can visit him. He is building the Monroe Institute over there, and they call it MIT, not the MIT that you thought, but Monroe Institute there in the spirit realm, and that school exists for those people who goes to the Monroe Institute to learn his technique, and then they can go to, when they use the technique, they can go to Monroe Institute there to meet Robert Monroe, who is dead and alive over there. Now, that's a freaking dope spiritual teacher. That's dope, man. That's like, oh my God, that's a true spiritual teacher, isn't it? Like, oh, if one day I will be doing my out of body experience and I will go to see him there. That's good. That's good. Meanwhile, he's dead and I'm not dead, and I'm reading his book and I'm learning so much. And I think that's how I pick my spiritual teacher. Bye-bye. I love you. Oh, yeah. Otis said I should always say, subscribe, like, and send me a comment.